It's become fashionable these days to talk about how brutal animal testing is, and it's gotten a lot of public attention because obviously nobody here wants to deliberately torture animals. But what's often looked over is the benefits that comes along with these things. The Group for the Education of Animal-Related Issues in 2009 said that animal research is the foundation for virtually every medical breakthrough over the past century. From antibiotics to blood transfusions, from dialysis to organ transplants, from vaccinations to chemotherapy, bypass surgery and joint replacement, practically every present-day protocol for prevention, treatment, cure, control of disease, pain, and suffering is based on the knowledge obtained through the research with laboratory animals. Does anyone out there remember polio? You probably don't, because it was cured using mice and monkeys before we had to deal with that. It's actually also being used to treat leukemia through animal research. The Science, Medicine, and Animals Institute Laboratory Animal Research noted that a drug is highly effective in the treating of chronic myeloid leukemia. Although it took more than a decade of laboratory work to develop it, the drug gained FDA approval in less than 3 years. Typically, it takes 14 years to win FDA approval by using a new drug and safe effect through clinical trials. Smallpox was also cured using cows. Now, responding to the point that animal research is torturous to the animals, it's increasing these days that animal research has to be overseen by a committee. The Seattle PI in 2000 noted that animals should not be exploited or abused in the process of research. To address the valid concern, research facilities are now required to have an Institute of Animal Care and Use Committee to oversee animal research. The IACUC is made up of research experts, licensed veterinarians, and members of the community at large. They've been a member of such community as local research institution. We monitor each research protocol regarding the use, care, and handling of animals. The researcher has to provide evidence that the proposed research has not already been done, and that the proposed protocol could not be carried out in a scientifically valid way without using the lives of animals. Animal tests are becoming more humane. Protest Committee, an Oxford-based think tank, is said very few, less than 1% of total animals to be used, monkeys to be household lab, will now be able to live in troops as they do in the wild. Wherever possible, animals are aestheticized during testing, meaning they feel no pain. I think it would be a good idea to talk about the statistics of actually how many research animals are used in the U.S. The statistics in 2006 taken by the government say that they put the number of laboratory animals used in research at 1,012,713. It is important to note that these statistics do not include rats, mice, birds, and fish. These animals are not covered by the Animal Welfare Act. Precise figures for the numbers of rats, mice, birds, and fish do not exist, but it's estimated that approximately 25 million of these animals are used every year. This would account for over 95% of all animals used in the U.S. So to put these numbers into perspective, scientists in the U.S. approximately use 26 million animals in research, of which only around 1 million are not rats, mice, birds, and fish. We use fewer animals in research than the number of ducks eaten per year in the country. We consume over 1,800 times the number of pigs than the number used in research. We eat over 340 chickens for each animal used in a research facility, and almost 9,000 chickens for every animal used in research covered by the Animal Welfare Act. For every animal used in research, it is estimated that 14 more are killed on our roads. The claim was made that the human genome is too far away from animals to be able to find any kind of cure for disease. But As the genomic revolution has come around and the genomes of both humans and animals have been sequenced, we've realized that there are much more similarities between humans and animals than there are differences. It has also enabled us to identify that where humans and particular animals are identified, as some animals serve as accurate representations of human anatomy, while others may share identical biochemical pathways. Genomic knowledge has made it so that animal research can be much more specifically targeted and accurate when presenting a human, thus correctly predicting how a human will react. Also, human diseases do exist in animals. Dr. Simon Festing comments that most human diseases exist in at least one other species. Many different animals naturally get the illnesses such as cancer, heart failure, asthma, rabies, and malaria, and they can be treated in the same way as human patients. There's evidence chimpanzees can get polio, and the human vaccine has been used to protect them in the wild. My opponent used the example of the eye irritation test against rabbits, and this is being also greatly lowered. The Group for the Education of Animal-Related Issues commented, the cosmetic industry, which 20 years ago tested nearly all its products on animals, has come close. Many companies have reduced their whole animal testing by as much as 80 or 90%. Some have eliminated it altogether. One estimate suggests that the U.S. cosmetic industry as a whole has their cut use of animals for eye irritation tests by 87%. Eye irritation tests on rabbits were subject to the first successful protest against animals back in 1980. Since then, cosmetic companies have been cutting back. Another example used was the failure of the drug thalidomide causing birth defects in pregnant women, which is true. This did happen after the drug was passed, but this was because the drug wasn't tested enough on animals. It did not initially pass safety tests on the animals, but the proper tests were not performed. Thalidomide basically was not tested on pregnant animals, so it was not applicable to humans. In closing, the law doesn't need to be abolished because these alternatives are already being used.